The first explosion came from behind them. It was sudden and violent. The bridge shook beneath Kitty's feet as a blast ripped through the crowd. Everyone stopped running at once, twisting around to see what had happened. Then came the whistle. Another explosion tore through the left side of the bridge. Bodies flew through the air. Blood sprayed across concrete barriers. Pieces of metal and flesh rained back onto the screaming crowd below. For half a second, nobody moved. Then panic swallowed everything whole. People surged forward again, shoving and screaming as they ran across the bridge. Kitty's heart pounded relentlessly as her mother dragged her through the chaos. "It's going to be okay, sweetie," her mother yelled over the madness. "Just keep running. Don't let go." Kitty clung tightly to her mother's hand. Around her, terrified faces blurred together. Backpacks and swinging luggage slammed into her shoulders and cheeks as the crowd crushed inward near the toll booths ahead. Military vehicles blocked the bridge while soldiers stood shoulder to shoulder behind the barricades. "We are handling the situation," one of them shouted. "Let us through. We want to leave." The crowd pushed harder. A soldier raised the megaphone. "We understand you're scared," he yelled, his voice shaking beneath the static. "But the city is under quarantine. Nobody crosses the bridge without inspection." "We can't wait. They're killing people. Please take my kids." "Mom?" Kitty tugged desperately onto her mother's jacket. "It's okay," her mother said quickly, though she sounded completely out of breath now. "It's going to be okay." But Kitty could hear the fear cracking through her voice. Behind her, her father kept one hand against the back of her head, shielding her as people slammed into them from every direction. "Please remain calm while we proceed with inspections." Something small and black flew through the air overhead. Kitty watched it spin. Then suddenly, her father shoved her downward. "Get down!" Boom! The explosion erupted somewhere directly ahead of them. Heat blasted across Kitty's face as screams ripped through the crowd. "Grenade! Grenade!" The soldiers raised their rifles toward the civilians still standing. More dark shapes flew through the air. More explosions. Smoke swallowed the bridge. Kitty looked up at her parents. Terror sat openly on both of their faces now. Her mother pulled Kitty tightly to her while her father wrapped himself around both of them, trying desperately to shield her from the chaos erupting around them. "Let us through!" People screamed and cried as blood spread across the concrete beneath their feet. Then the crowd surged again, harder this time, and suddenly Kitty lost her mother's hand. There was another violent surge from the crowd as people rushed the barrier. Bodies crushed together shoulder to shoulder. People screamed as they shoved past one another, desperate to escape the city before the undead reached the bridge. Kitty's parents tried to stand. Every time they pushed themselves up, another wave of people knocked them back down again. Kitty couldn't get up either. All she felt was pain. Pain in her ribs, pain in her legs, pain burning through her skull. Every breath hurt. Boots slammed into her back and shoulders as people trampled over them without looking down. Someone stepped on her ankle hard enough that she heard something pop. Her mother screamed nearby, but the sound vanished beneath another explosion. Gunfire cracked endlessly overhead. Grenades thundered across the bridge. Smoke and blood filled the air so thick Kitty could taste the metal on her tongue. It felt like hours passed with them pinned beneath a crowd. "Kitty!" her father shouted somewhere beside her. "I'm here!" she cried back. A pair of hands grabbed her jacket, trying to pull her upward, but another stampede of bodies crushed into them. The grip vanished. Then came a horrible scream from her mother. Sharp. Sudden. Then cut short. "Mom?" Kitty reached out frantically through the darkness around her. Her hand slipped across concrete slick with blood and something thicker she didn't want to recognize. "Dad!" No answer. Only screaming. Only gunfire. And underneath it all, the undead. Their growls spread through the bridge like a disease. Wet snarls, teeth clacking, the dragging scrape of feet moving through the piles of bodies. Closer. Someone nearby begged for mercy before erupting into screams so violent they barely sounded human anymore. Flesh tore, bones cracked. Kitty sobbed as she crawled blindly across the pavement. "Mom! Dad! Please!" Hands suddenly grabbed her under the arms, strong, firm. Kitty screamed and thrashed instinctively until a deep voice cut through the chaos. Hey, calm down." A man, not one of the dead. "You're okay," he said quietly, lifting her off the ground. "I've got you." "My parents," Kitty cried. "Please, I can't find them. I can't see." The words finally hit her fully as she said them aloud. I can't see. Panic coursed through her body. Everything was black. No shapes, no light, nothing. The man hesitated for half a second before tightening his grip on her. We have to move, he said urgently. No, Kitti screamed. My mom and dad are here. Another explosion rocked the bridge. The man started running with her in his arms. Below them came endless screaming and the horrible sounds of the dead feeding. Honey, the stranger said breathlessly, his voice heavy with grief. Your parents are gone. No, she sobbed. No, 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 I'm sorry. She buried her face against his shoulder as he carried her away from the bridge while the world died behind them. Then she woke up gasping. Her blanket was tangled around her legs, and sweat clung to the back of her neck. For a moment she stayed completely still, chest heaving as the echoes of screams and explosions rang through her head. The bridge again. It was always the bridge. Ever since she lost her sight, her dreams had stopped being dreams at all. They were mostly memories now. Broken pieces of the worst day of her life replaying themselves over and over at night while she slept. Some mornings she could feel the blood on her hands when she woke up. Kitti swallowed hard and rubbed at her face. Around her, sanctuary was beginning to wake up. Pipes rattled somewhere overhead, boots thudded outside her room. Distant voices drifted through the thin metal walls while generators hummed low beneath everything else. It felt alive, safe, at least for now. She slowly sat up on the edge of her bed and reached for her cane leaning against the wall beside her. Today was different. The thought cut through the heaviness still whirring in her head. Today was the day. Months of training with Derek, months of learning how to listen instead of look, how to count footsteps, how to track movement by sound alone, how to stab upward beneath the jaw and where to hit so the dead stayed down. Months of bruises, months of arguments, months of Derek telling her she wasn't ready. But today, for the first time since the world ended, Kitti was finally going outside on her own. A nervous knot twisted in her stomach beneath the excitement. Freedom. Real freedom. Or at least the closest thing left to it. Kitti stood slowly and tightened her grip on the cane. Then she smiled to herself. About damn time. She moved around her small room carefully, already knowing where everything was without needing to think about it. The room was barely larger than a storage closet, with metal makeshift walls, a narrow bed, and a small wooden crate for clothes. But it was hers. And today, for the first time, it felt less like a cage. Kitti crouched beside her pack and began checking supplies one by one with her hands. Canteen, knife, flashlight, extra batteries, bandages, and jerky. The motions were practiced now after months of Derek drilling survival habits into her head until she could do them half asleep. Always check twice, never trust old floors, count your steps, listen before you move. She smiled faintly at the thought. Then the door creaked open behind her. Kitti immediately recognized Derek's heavy footsteps. You're up early, he said. You say that like you expected me to sleep. Derek grunted quietly. She heard him step further into the room before stopping. You pack enough water? Yes. Knife? Yes. Radio? Kitti sighed sharply. Yes, Derek. Silence. The kind that sat thick between people who both wanted to say something else. Kitti continued tightening straps on her bag. You nervous? He finally asked. A little. That's good. Means you're thinking. Kitti smirked faintly. You always say that. Because it's true. She slung the bag onto her shoulder and stood. The room fell quiet again. Then Derek spoke softly. You don't have to do this alone. There it is, Kitti muttered. Kitti, no, seriously, she turned toward his voice. You said I was ready. You are. Then why does it feel like you're trying to talk me out of it? Derek exhaled slowly through his nose. Because being ready doesn't mean the world suddenly becomes safe. I know that. Do you? His voice sharpened slightly for the first time. Because out there, one bad step is enough. One wrong sound, one loose patch of dirt, one mistake, and no one's there to help you. Kitty's jaw clenched. I'm not helpless. I never said you were, but you think it. Derek went quiet, and somehow that silence hurt worse. Kitti tightened her grip around the strap of her pack. For months, you trained me, she said more quietly now. You taught me how to fight, how to survive, how to move through the wasteland. Her voice cracked slightly. What was the point if you were never going to let me actually live? Derek rubbed a hand through his beard. The point was keeping you alive. There's a difference. Kitti. You know what it feels like? She interrupted. Every single person in Sanctuary here is blind before they hear my name. They talk slower around me. They grab my arm when I don't ask. They decide what I can and can't do before I even open my mouth. Her breathing had become uneven now. I'm tired of people being afraid for me all the time. Derek's voice softened again. I'm not afraid for you because you're blind. Then why? Another silence, longer this time. Finally, Derek spoke. Because I was there when your parents died. The words hit like a punch to the gut. You were screaming for them, he continued quietly. The whole bridge was falling apart around us, and you just kept screaming their names. His voice grew rougher. I carried you out of there while people were dying all around us. Kitti felt her throat tighten painfully. I know, she whispered. I couldn't save them. Derek's voice nearly broke under the weight of it. But I saved you. The room became unbearably still. And if I let something happen to you now, he stopped himself, shaking. I don't think I could survive that twice. Kitti felt tears sting behind her eyes. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then she stepped closer and rested her forehead gently against his chest. I have to do this, she whispered. Derek's arm slowly wrapped around her shoulders. I know.